Welcome to the Environmental Transformation Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Grady, and today's guest is Melik Khoury. Dr. Melik Khoury is the president of Unity College. He's been there for the past 11 years, and we're excited to talk with him about Unity College being America's environmental college. Hey, Melik, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sean. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, yeah. I'm really glad to talk with you and learn more about Unity College. And, Unity College is located in Maine. And let's see, it's in, let me see, what was the town there called again? New
We have
Gloucester?
multiple locations. We have
Yep.
in Unity itself, in New Gloucester, in Thorndike, in Moose River, and online.
Okay. I love it. Online. It's good. Hybrid's a new way of doing things. We've kind of, since the pandemic, everybody's gone to a hybrid model. So I'm glad you guys are there too. So, well, before we jump in, tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Khoury, and what you've been doing, and how you got involved with becoming the president of Unity College.
Absolutely. I actually started Unity College, and I've performed multiple roles. And when my predecessor announced his retirement,
Mm-hmm.
the college was going through a metamorphosis of I'm sure you've heard, a lot of small private colleges that don't have major endowments have been trying to find their footing in this new world. And I was asked by the board of trustees if I could help transform our mission to be more accessible, more affordable to more people out there in the great wide world. And with the fact that everything around us, every job, every career impacts the environment in some way.
Sure.
It was a worthy challenge I was happy to take on.
Well, that's great. Well, tell us, how did Unity College become America's environmental college? Because
Sure.
when I saw that, I was like, huh, okay.
Unity College has always been a maverick in being a first at many things. It was actually founded in 1965 as an entrepreneurial college.
Okay.
And as the story goes, it was back in when the interstate was being built, and it kind of bypassed the town, and they were like, "So what are we going to do as an economic driver?" But very quickly in the in mid 70s, as the climate crisis really became a scientific issue of our time, the
Mm-hmm.
faculty, staff, and trustees at the time says, how we differentiate ourselves from the rest of the world. We've always been an institution that has focused on, what is considered today green careers. How do we really differentiate ourselves from the other kind of more traditional liberal arts colleges that kind of really focus on just basically everything?
Mm-hmm.
And so, the community back then really said, we are a school that really focuses on biology. We really focus on conservation. We really
Mm-hmm.
focus on really trying to solve the climate issues of our time. Let that be our niche.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the concept of America's Environmental College was born, and then over a number of about 20 years, that then evolved also into incorporating sustainability science as the kind of the core element in incorporating and building out our curriculum. So it was really a no-brainer for the college, looking at where the world is going and our place in it.
That's really great because, of course, I went to IUPUI, Indiana University, Purdue University of Indianapolis, and I majored in biology, and I love my earth sciences. And, that's really kind of drew me into the environmental field, as a young graduate. And I started out working for the state of Indiana Environmental Agency. And I love that. I love the environmental focus that I received in college. But to have, a college like yourself primarily focusing on environmental studies, that is impressive, because I don't think there's a lot of schools that says, hey, this is our niche and this is what we're doing. This is what we're all about.
Absolutely. I think, in many ways, the fact that many in academia still see the environmental science as a niche or a program you can elect into or as a value added, I believe is a bit of a misnomer. I mean, think about an industry that does not involve the environment, whether it's nursing or
Oh,
technology or
sure.
and the like. So one of the ways that I explain this is that, the liberal arts, was invented by the Greeks, as you know. It was militarized by the Romans, and it was democratized by the Americans. But the the idea that the environmental sciences, how we engage with this one planet that we live in, is somehow on the side or some department in the corner doesn't make sense to me and most people who work at Unity, because it has to be kind of baked into the very fabric of general education, the core curriculum, regardless of the field. And that's, I think, has been our mission, is to kind of graduate more environmentally aware, sustainability minded professionals, regardless of which field they go into.
Right, right. No, I mean, so when I look at your website, and I was kind of doing a little op-ed research here for this interview, I said, I wonder how many undergraduate and master's degrees do you guys offer? So, give me a little flavor. Let the listeners know what type of undergraduate and master degrees do you guys offer at Unity College?
Absolutely. All of our programs, graduate, undergraduate, micro-credentials, certificates, associate degrees, all are kind of live in the environmental science world and sustainability. Some of our larger programs are like marine biology, animal behavior, conservation law enforcement, sustainable business management with different focuses, just to name a few. We have a little under 20 programs, and I'm really looking forward to the fact actually that we are launching our first vet tech program this fall in our technical institute for environmental professions, which is our subsidiary that does predominantly 2-year degrees. And then we're also going to be launching environmental engineering in our distance education program. So we're constantly evolving into looking at what are the careers that the kind of the green economy is going towards.
Oh, well, I mean, you'd have to be sleeping under a rock to know that, not to notice all the new, focus on sustainability and circular economy and climate change and addressing, zero net carbon. Industries are really adopting and really driving now sustainability into all their programs as they manufacture and operate. From my vantage point, being in the professional services world, we're helping clients do a lot of these things. It is the way of the future.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Absolutely.
this is going to be driving the industry for the next 20 to 30 years easily, with new young professionals needing to come into the workforce and help industry meet these expectations, and they need trained individuals, and this is what you guys are doing.
Absolutely. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I think the concept of how any organization, corporation, or foundation impacts the environment and economy. If you're graduating, regardless of the field, and you don't have a grasp, even a tertiary grasp of how those three elements, kind of are symbiotic, if you will.
Yeah,
I think
interconnected.
you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah, exactly. So, so do you guys offer some online programs for, actual current professionals that are in the actual workforce that need to skill up, and basically become better familiar with different types of, technology or topics, things like that? Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. When we designed this kind of new enterprise model, if you will, one of the things that we wanted to make sure was that we really focused on differentiated audiences using differentiated pedagogies. And we know that the adult market, if you will, working professionals, second career folks, place-bound folks, can't always kind of do the residential. So one of the subsidiaries that we have is called Distance Education, and it's all online. There are no residential expectations. Instead, our faculty and staff and instructional designers work with students to incorporate their local ecology within the fabric of their experience. And so, we offer micro-credentials, we offer workforce development, we offer certificates, we'll be offering associate's degrees coming this fall. And then, of course, our baccalaureate programs ranging from sustainable business to environmental justice. So our distance education program is the best suited, if you will, to support the working adult who might be place bound or who needs a level of flexibility in their curriculum that might not be best suited for a semester approach where you have to take 5 classes to qualify for federal and state aid.
Well, that's good to know because there's a lot of professionals that are out there that are, struggling to skill up. I mean, like for instance, you may be working in, say, health and safety or environmental space, and now all of a sudden sustainability becomes the focus, and you just became the sustainability leader at your company, and you didn't know anything really about that in the past, and now you have to become well versed in sustainability reporting and greenhouse gas calculations and a lot of things like that that professionals are struggling to skill up. And if you've got programs like that, that is great news.
And not only do we have programs like that, but one of the upticks in our students is the amount of folks who are taking our courses as non-degrees because they want that one course that really applies, but they don't really need a degree because they already have one.
Hmm.
We're also seeing an uptick in demand for non-degreed offerings. For example, we just partnered with the Ocean Conservancy in DC, along with a few other companies, where we're providing their workforce with basically sustainability and leadership principles in working in the environment. Our model also allows us to partner with organizations and tailor curriculum, be they credit bearing or non-credit bearing, specifically for their industry, which is actually much more valuable than simply saying, this is what we offer, have your employees
Well,
take it.
I've got an opportunity I could discuss with you. So I belong to the Institute of Hazardous Material Managers, and
Mhm.
they're a credentialing body, and you can obtain your certificate of say your hazardous material management or your dangerous goods management or your safety management. They have a student program that they are partnering with universities and colleges to basically provide a student credential for somebody coming out of college. Immediately they have a credential that they can put on their resume when they enter the workforce, that hey, I'm a student or an associate. I think they call it an associate type certified hazardous material manager, and
Mhm.
and you learn all the tenets of RECRA, DOT, all the various regulations. It's a fantastic program. If you've got some interest, I'd be happy to hook you up with that group, and see if you've got some staff might want to help train some young professionals in the hazardous waste management. That's a big circular economy, component there.
No, absolutely. I mean, we're always happy to partner with folks. As you know, growth comes in you build, you partner, and you acquire. So
Yeah.
partnerships are key. And we now actually work with 4 companies where we do their employee workforce development for non-credit bearing trainings as they are beginning to see the value of having their employees have a basic certification and micro credentials. We also partnered with Credly to allow us to give some of our partners the ability to kind of have the micro credential on their websites, on their LinkedIn pages, and the like, as a differentiated way for employees and students to show their competencies.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, and I think it's a big it is a differentiator for a student to come in and say, well, I've got this credential. I'm not just, just have a bachelor degree and that's it. So that's really great. Um, well, Unity Colleges, you've got this enterprise, which I
Mhm.
believe is kind of like the operations, the business management of the enterprise there at Unity College. But how does it support sustainable education, the business unit and their objectives?
Absolutely. I mean, we are designed. What we found when we started is that most colleges our size, traditionally, historically, small private colleges, we've got one business model, right? A
Hmm.
residential program, and anything that we want to do is kind of adds a burden to the folks who already have a full plate. And in many cases, those particular folks tend to have an expertise in a certain type of education, which tends to be more the traditional kind of freshman transfer residential approach. So we came up with the enterprise model. It's very similar to if you're a public school, a system office, or if you are a corporation, a corporate headquarters, if you will, kind of like centralized services in human resources, budget, quality control, assessment,
Right.
etc. That allows for fractional kind of support for different subsidiaries that can focus with their own faculty, their own staff, their own PLL, and not have to compromise across the board. So
Mm-hmm.
our enterprise model supports currently 4 distinct subsidiaries. It supports distance education,
Mm-hmm.
and distance education is really focused around asynchronous, online, place-bound adult students. That is who they cater to. That is
Mm-hmm.
who the instructional designers, the faculty, that is the pedagogical approach. We have what we call hybrid learning, which is your more high residency program that allows for expeditions, residential, etc., and allows students to take both face-to-face or online based on their needs. And that they tend to focus more on your more traditional freshman and transfer.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Technical Institute for Environmental Professions that's launching this fall, and they'll be focused specifically on associate degrees and certificates at a very differentiated price point designed around regional workforce development in the areas of green careers. For example, we'll be launching vet tech, we'll be launching data analytics for environmental professions, because we're seeing that as a really key
That is a
certificate.
big one right now. I was going to touch on that one. We will touch on that one
Yeah,
later.
absolutely. And then finally, we have Sustainable Ventures, the School of Business and Sustainable Ventures, which really focuses on the concept of low residency and this idea that those who can do also teach. So we have a working lodge up in Moose River. We have a farm in Thorndike. We have an event center up at Unity, a campus store. So think of it in the traditional sense as an auxiliary, but also as an opportunity to really lend itself to providing kind of the non-credit bearing arm of the college. All of those are allowed to operate independently through our decentralized functions. And then they all are supported by the enterprise for centralized functions. And then we can add and subtract subsidiaries as new markets and new pedagogies develop.
That's great. No, I really like it. That's good. Well, it looks like you've got the core system there for support established. Well, that's really great. And you've got these 4 region or 4 groups, business units that are helping drive the educational engine there. Um, one of the things that caught my eye as I was kind of perusing your website was the you guys were the first institution of higher education to divest $18 million of your endowment from fossil fuels. Let's talk about that. Let's get into that. That must have been a serious conversation with the leadership there to make that decision. Because quite frankly, you got some, revenue, you got money there you're trying to maintain, and you got to keep growing the investment and keep funding the college, and wrong moves might have some impact. And talk about all that behind the scenes, if you could, a little bit, and what went into being the first college to do this, because this is pretty impressive.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm very proud to say that we are celebrating our 10-year anniversary of divesting our endowment from fossil fuels this fall. Actually, back then it was 12.5 million. It's now grown to 18.5.
Okay.
But as America's environmental college, I mean, somebody had to lead the way. And, unlike many colleges or what you see in the news where there seemed to have been a lot of contention around decisions like this, it was actually pretty straightforward. My predecessor gets the full credit for making this decision. I don't want to take that away from him. And, he partnered with 350.org. And the idea was, how can we not divest? And the issues that we had was less about the decision and more of the implementation plan, because back then there was no fossil fuel free portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
for us, making the decision was actually supported at all levels: students, faculty, staff, trustees. The real conversation was how.
How are you going to get there? Yeah, and do it in a financial way that you're going to still be successful at, getting a return on your investment.
Exactly. And that was the biggest concern, right? Is that, if we do this, are we going to, what's the likelihood we're going to lose what precious endowment we do have? I'm very proud to say that over the last 10 years, we have performed at or better than the index. And the board of trustees back then said, we can sacrifice 1 or 2 percentage points to do the right thing, and it ended up not being quite the sacrifice. The key was the implementation plan. The board of trustees created an investment committee, as you can imagine, worked with a investment firm because we did not
Sure.
have expertise. And
Yeah.
back then, the investment firm said there is no fossil fuel free index. And so the first list that the college created was that honestly, they created a list of 200, the top 200 fossil fuel free companies, and says we won't invest in those. That's really how we started. And
Mm-hmm.
the investment firm was willing to work with us because they saw that somebody had to be the first. And then we give ourselves 3 years to fully divest, because one of the misnomers with the divestment decisions is people assume the day you divest, you just got to throw your stocks out the window. No, things have to come to maturity and the like. We were able to do that in about a year. So we didn't have to take the 3 years. And the rest is history, as they say.
That is amazing. I mean, it's funny. This topic came up. I don't know if you've seen the movie or the show Billions, but
Yes.
recently I was watching an episode, and they are trying to help a university divest. I don't know if you saw this episode, but
I remember the episode. I was
yeah,
laughing when I saw it.
yeah. So I was watching it, and then this came up, and they're trying to make this decision to divest and things like that, and then I read your website that you did this. I was like, oh wow, this is so like you know deja vu or serendipitous that this topic came up, that I was watching, that there's a lot of institutions really trying to, make this decision just like you guys did, to divest, to make, basically put your money where your mouth is. You're really trying to make an impact in the environment. You want to support, companies that are doing it the right way. You want to help reduce, climate change and things like that. And you guys did it. Amazing, great story. I love it. But there's a bigger story here too, right? I mean, let's talk about, you guys started the path, and all of a sudden 1,500 institutions later, now what are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, well, now it's in the trillions of dollars, and once the major players kind of bought into it, the larger institutions. I mean, I'm also proud to say that the state of Maine was the first state in the nation to divest. So it's really interesting that Unity was the first college, Maine was the first state, and now some of the major universities. I think for the longest time, to your point, there was a couple of confounding issues. One was the fear of loss of return. And I think the more colleges went in, more people know investment is just that. I think the other piece was there was a lot of bad information that once you decided to divest, you somehow were under pressure to divest all of your stocks immediately. And
Mhm.
so, over the last 10 years, my predecessor and myself, we've spoken to to student populations, CFOs, colleges, trustees, and we've said, make the decision, stop digging the hole, and then create an implementation plan that works best for your portfolio based with your financial advisors and your investment firms. Because if you have a stock, for example, that doesn't mature, or a bond that doesn't mature for 3 years, and you make the decision today, all that means is once it's mature, don't reinvest it in fossil fuels, reinvest it in the right approach. We have to stop digging. And I think those misnomers, that fear of the unknown, it's funny. Now it's almost business as usual, but somebody had to be first. And if Unity College over the next 150 years gets remembered that it made it okay for the big players to have a roadmap with which they can be more comfortable in, then I think that was a decision well made. And yes, it was only 12.5 million.
Well, I
But for
mean,
us, it was everything.
well, it was everything. I mean, that was, and you're a small college, that endowment needed to last. It needed to help you grow. And you guys were putting your neck on the line to make this work. And it did. And then all of a sudden, now you've got major institutions, I saw this chart on your website that showed the other institutions and them contributing, and you've got Stanford and Yale and Harvard. I mean, these guys are holding like 50 some billion dollars in endowment. I'm sitting there going, that's where the big money is, and these guys have divested, and that's where the $39 trillion is adding up over time
Correct.
with all these institutions. There's some big hitters in here. What does it feel like to be, that leader of that pack that, started it all?
I mean, if you were to ask all of the employees, trustees, it's pride, right? But honestly, I think at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do, right? I think that somebody was going to have to make that decision, and I'm glad that my predecessor and the board of trustees and the community back then were brave enough to make that decision. But no matter what happens, Unity College has cemented its name in kind of the climate century, if you will, that we started this revolution, and it was peaceful, it was positive, it was well planned, and we made it okay for the big players 10 years later to have the courage to follow suit. I always joke with my board, wouldn't it be nice if every college that decided to divest since then gave us a little bit of a royalty? But, you
For
know,
just sake of, maybe one of those billions off of
just,
Harvard, you'd be just fine.
just round up and send it our way. But in all seriousness,
We want to build a couple more business units for that enterprise.
exactly. But I honestly say that that group of folks were in the right time, in the right place, made the right decision, and we should always be proud of them.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, well, that's really good to hear that, you worked with a great investment company to help you kind of maintain and basically, outperform some of the previous returns on investments for your endowment. And that made the decision so much easier. I'm sure. Talk a little bit about Unity's support of 350org.org and as an ally to the fight against climate change, because I think there was a lot of support there. And I saw a little YouTube clip from 350.org just recently, and they're really pushing for a global type boots on the ground grassroots support of these types of changes.
Absolutely. I mean, Unity College and 350.org, it was a match made in heaven, if you will, at the right time. 350.org back then was pushing this agenda quite strongly, and when my predecessor, who was a climate change expert himself, met and they had this conversation, 350.org was able to bring some legitimacy and some data to the table to partner with Unity College that gave us all the confidence to do it. So, we are very proud of the work that they've done. We were glad that they were here at the right time to help us. And it's an organization that if you're seriously considering making this decision, it's a great partner to talk to.
That's good. Well, let's dig in a little bit on some new trends in the industry, and I'm front and center watching a lot of these things because most people know I do environmental consulting and have for 20 years, and data analytics is leading the way for evaluating environmental information, whether that's sustainability, climate change, greenhouse gas, all this kind of things. Talk a little bit about, how's Unity College helping train young and seasoned professionals in the learning, of these types of skills, because it's going to be a valuable skill to have.
Absolutely. Historically, Unity College has always been an environmental science institution. And I say that quite deliberately because I think there are many out there who confuse environmental science with just environmentalism.
Hmm.
And I think that while in our 55-year history, we've done a really good job in incorporating within the fabric of our curriculum, how to use data to make informed decisions, whether it's in statistics, in biology, and the like. The concept of data science as a standalone subject matter is something that we recognize over the last few years that is missing in our curriculum portfolio. We've also realized that it's not a bachelor's degree. So we have data analytics incorporated within the fabric of our baccalaureate programs and our master's programs, but we are creating a data analytics for environmental professions in our associate degrees. We are also creating a certificate program, and we'll also be creating non-credit micro-credentials, because there are many people out there who already have baccalaureates, who already have jobs that really need the skill set, and be
Mm-hmm.
able to provide it using our high flex, our competency based, our distance education pedagogy, will allow these folks to be able to take these competencies, will only help them, because climate change, as you very well know, is a symptom of overpopulation, poor policy, lack of data in decision making with agriculture, with energy, and the like. And what, as an institution based in science, if we can help folks in all areas of the workforce get a certificate about how to use data to quantify and objectively and empirically document everything from energy use to doing data analysis for incorporating, starting a new farm. I think that is a very, very important piece that is evolving. And we are launching those programs this fall, because it's not enough to just say, I'm graduating with a degree and I understand data, but really understanding that data science is a growing career field that is going to be in high demand, just like logistics will be as well.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Malik, yeah, Malik.
Now,
I mean, we've got a lot of people who are coming into the industry, and they are looking for young professionals to already have some skills to be able to, you know, basically put together some dashboards of, from a data analytics perspective, and some run some, trending analysis, and having some visualizations, at their fingertips to interpret the information they're trying to solve, and understand. And I think that is a skill set that young professionals, if they come into the market with that in their back pocket, they're going to be they're going to start to become very quickly assets to any of those companies.
absolutely. I mean, for example, at Unity College, we've always incorporated GIS as part of our
Another
portfolio.
great, yep, another great technology to know.
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, visual representation of data, understanding trend analysis, being able to create predictive modeling, being able to those. I would say Unity College, our faculty have always been very good at incorporating that. But I think it's time we kind of supersize that.
Hmm.
Um, and so your point, we need to stop looking at the environmental sciences and the issues of climate change as predominantly partisan political issues. It is a problem that we have to solve using data and using science.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, it's if you get good data and good science, I mean, that's what people need. They need to be able to measure and monitor and track this information, and you need good solutions. You need software. You need data analytics. You need these tools, and professionals that come with into the market with those skills are going to be high valued professionals. Another area, and I didn't have it on the list here. Some questions I wanted to ask you though, but another one that kind of came to mind was, a business degree. There's a lot of professionals coming in the environmental space, and running and managing business as part of this process, of sustainability, or even if they go into consulting. I can tell you, you almost have to have an MBA to manage businesses and invoices and clients, and without those skill sets as well. I mean, it's great to have the scientific understanding, but the business side is crucial for success of a lot of professionals coming in. Where are you guys with business degree supports, or associate business degree, or minor, or things like that with part of your education?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to your point, if so the tenets of sustainability science, right, is economy, ecology, and humanity, and so we incorporated about 5 years ago sustainable business management, which
Hmm.
focuses on some very specific industries. Because to your point, the environment, everything we do, whether you're selling textiles or you're running a hotel, right? You are
Managing a business.
interact Yeah, and you're interacting with the environment.
Yeah.
And so we launched a sustainable business MBA. So instead of it being an elective, it is kind of caked in understanding the concept of differentiated economies and how profits
A P&L, managing a P&L.
P&L, balance sheets. How do you
General ledger.
track?
Yeah.
Um, uh, how do we change the conversation that somehow the environmental science and climate change does not somehow coexist with business? I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's been the biggest coup, if you will, that the climate change deniers have done, is they've made it look like pro environment is anti business, which
Yeah.
is really weird because it's
They
not.
go hand in hand,
They
right?
go hand in
Yeah.
hand.
You've got to have a balance there. And I mean, I see that and live it every day. And of course, I'm passionate about getting up and, trying to help the environment, but at the same time, there's a business aspect to this too. And you got to have some, good understanding about it. So it's good to see that you guys are incorporating those things into your curriculum and those offerings, because it's a valued aspect.
I will say, one of most of our students, as you can imagine, are not taking the business major, but they are taking the business concentrations, they are taking the business electives, because it's amazing how many folks historically that I've spoken to have said, oh, I graduated from Unity College in your adventure program. I graduated, but then I realized that I needed to go back to school because I needed some basic business principles. So
Yeah.
it became a no-brainer 5 years ago, the way that data analytics is now becoming a no-brainer now. One of my favorite sayings is no margin, no mission.
Yeah.
So
You need,
even as a nonprofit, right? If
yeah.
whether the funding comes from tuition, from grants, from gifts, from the federal or state government, if you don't have the right resources, then we can support students, and that goes the same for any industry.
That's right. That's right. Because there's so many, professions like, sustainability professionals. I don't know if you saw recently, Deloitte just said they're investing, $1 billion in
Mhm.
sustainability business. Well,
Amazon to
yeah, I mean, these guys are all business, companies or the big accounting firms, KPMG, Deloitte, PwC, all of them, EY, they're bringing in sustainability and environmental, aspects to the accounting world, business world. So,
Absolutely. I
you
mean,
know,
at the end of the day, it goes back to the fundamentals of a university or college, right? You need to know how to think, how to read, how to write. But at the same time, the concept of ethics, the concept of business.
mhm,
It is the future. While I do believe that specialization is key, having a well balanced portfolio of education that makes you understand the relationship, between people, profit, and planet, I think gives you a competitive advantage than if you think one is completely independent of the other two.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, that's good. That's good. Well, let's talk a little bit about, the Unity School of Environmental Business and Sustainability Ventures. Tell me a little bit about this the Mckay Farms and research stations. What?
Sure. The Mckay Farm and Research Station is part of a portfolio of sustainable businesses that is in a number of locations we have across the state of Maine, and hopefully someday nationally, and hopefully someday globally. So we've got the farm that was donated to us, and we use it as a commercial farm.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we use it to promote sustainable practices. We use it for students to be able to do research on it and the like. And it is an auxiliary that we have that helps our institution along with Moose Sky Lodge, which is a 150-acre lodge up in Moose River that is we use as a lodge, but also a place for students to go and study, hospitality, wildlife, biology, and the like. So, Mckay Farm and Research Station is part of an ecosystem of small sustainable businesses that we have, as we are trying to create the idea that those who can do also teach. And our hope is to expand the portfolio of small sustainable enterprises that we have to really kind of reflect a revenue generating manifestation of our curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't just teach it, we do it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you give your students hands-on, practical application of learning trades and skills, I saw some of the greenhouse work you're doing, growing plants and feeding the community with some of the vegetables and things like that you're growing. I mean, holistic approach. I'm sure you're doing composting and things like that. I mean, that's all part of that whole regenerative type, farming. That's really cool. Um, and then, are there any key programs that you're most proud of there, at Unity, kind
Yeah,
of
I
like tell me a
mean,
little bit.
what is there not to be proud of? We are America's environmental college, and the fact that our entire curriculum, regardless of major, is the concept of sustainability, science, and the environment is baked into kind of whatever the major is something that every president should have at their university.
Mhm.
I long for the day where. In the days when it was writing across the curriculum and math across the curriculum, it's environmental sustainability across the curriculum. But
Yeah.
I'm proud of this new kind of non-standard model that has really allowed our faculty and staff to kind of have these differentiated subsidiaries that allow to meet students where they are, keeping tuition down. I mean, we've been really leaning into this for just about 3 years now, and we've already seen our average age go up from 21 to about 30. Our multicultural enrollment from a 50-year history of about 8% to over 20. The amount of students no longer taking alternative loans in order to get a degree because we're not forcing everybody to have a residential program. It's up to them. So I'm proud of the model that we have built that really pushes accessibility and affordability, where one class at a time qualifies you for federal and state aid, allowing a differentiated socioeconomic population to have access to environmental education instead of many environmental colleges sometimes are viewed as a little bit kind of like, for a specific um, demographics that isn't viewed by kind of mainstream population as legitimate green careers. So we're very, very proud of that. On a more practical basis, I'm also proud of the fact that we have started to incorporate and investing in R&D for XR into the fabric of our curriculum. So we know that the future graduates of Unity College are going to have to work in an augmented and a virtual space. Um, and so we have a plan to incorporate 30% of our curriculum is going to have some sort of AR or VR element within the
Oh,
curriculum
wow.
so that when they graduate, they have had that experience. The way Microsoft Word and PowerPoint was really cool in the 90s, the way Google Docs in the early 2000s, we think XR is the future. And any student who graduates with that competency is going to have an edge in the workforce, in grad school, or as an entrepreneur. And it's really been interesting. And if you go on our website, you'll see it's also really allowed the reduction of barrier to entry. The medical field has used it where students get to work with animals and work with crime scene investigations in a much more affordable way than the more expensive kind of hands-on way, which has allowed us
I
to.
mean, the VR is so great because it gives you that ability to have the mental reps of understanding how to actually do something, even though you physically aren't doing it, but you're visually, walking through the process. And I've got a client of mine who they do VR training of their operators on a huge platform, and they learn all the ins and outs of this design of this platform, and it's designed exactly to the specifications of the real life size platform, and they just go and do training on changing
Yes,
out valves and things like that, and they get all those mental reps to know what to do and what to what it's like to experience that process. um, it's a pretty powerful process. So it's really
absolutely.
great that you've been doing that.
Yeah, actually, it's been so positive, the feedback we've gotten from students in incorporating this into our curriculum, that we are actually currently in a beta for our first student commons. So we are going from the curricular aspect of XR to a co-curricular aspect of XR that we hope to launch next year to give our students, faculty, and staff a whole new world to interact with, kind of learning from the gaming industry, but also incorporating it into an educational world. So we are betering like solar farms and oceans and all the different kinds of vegetations and ecosystems that give students a preliminary access to interacting in a really interesting way, something that historically you only see in the gaming industry, that we're trying to really incorporate into the educational platform.